Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're diving into the core mechanics of Excel, and we're going to transform that familiar spreadsheet dread into total, absolute empowerment. Seriously, if you've ever felt completely overwhelmed staring down a blank grid of cells, you are in exactly the right place. We're going to look really closely at the fundamental tools that make spreadsheets work for you rather than, the other way around. Let's get into it.
So, have spreadsheets ever left you staring at a screen just full of errors? Look, we've all felt that universal pain. Doing manual math in a spreadsheet is basically a recipe for a headache. It leaves you staring at those terrifying hashtag arrows, or maybe a bunch of zeros when you copy a cell and suddenly, boom, the whole thing breaks. But here's the good news. Excel actually has built-in cheat codes that act as an immediate cure for this exact frustration.
To get there, here's our roadmap to conquering the grid. Number 1, formulas versus functions. Number 2, the core Excel functions. 3, adding logic with if. 4, relative and absolute references. And finally, number 5, shortcuts for ultimate speed.
All right, jumping into section 1, formulas versus functions, the basic weapons.
Let's start with the absolute basics, just to clear up a massive point of confusion. People use these two words interchangeably all the time, but they're actually completely different tools in your toolkit. So the crucial difference starts right here. A formula is a custom calculation created by you. The golden rule, the one you absolutely must remember, is that every single calculation has to start with an equal sign. Whether you're typing in numbers manually, like equals 100 plus 150, or clicking on specific cells to track, say, your daily cookie sales, that equal sign is literally what tells the spreadsheet, hey, do some math for me. And here's a quick pro tip for you. Always try to use cell references, like B2 plus B3, instead of typing the actual numbers, because that way, if your data changes later, the whole formula updates dynamically.
Really, the difference here comes down to manual labor versus automation. If you want to calculate total sales with a custom formula, you're forced to type equals B2 plus B3 plus B4, and so on. Honestly, it gets messy fast. Functions, on the other hand, are the built-in tools that do the heavy lifting for you. Instead of clicking every single cell one by one, you can just type equals sum and select the whole range from B2 to B8. See? Functions provide this instant gratification by automating the calculation across a whole block of data. So just remember this. Every function is a formula, but not every formula uses a function. Moving right along to section 2, the core Excel functions. Consider these your magical artifacts.
Okay, now that you know the equal sign rule, you're ready to use the built-in tools that handle your everyday, day-to-day tasks. Let's apply these core functions to a tangible example, like the Kevin Cookie Company, to see how we turn raw data into actual business insights. So sum adds your numbers up, giving you the total cookies sold for the week. Average finds the mean, right? So you instantly know your average daily sales. Want to know your absolute best day? You use max to find the highest number in a list, which, in this case, is Saturday. Awesome. And if you want to find the smallest value to see your worst sales day, that's min, which unfortunately happens to be Thursday. Finally, count simply tells you how many cells have numbers in them. This is absolutely perfect for checking if any days of recorded sales are completely missing from your list.
Next up, section 3, adding logic with IF, your smart assistant. This is where things get really interesting. When we step beyond just basic math and start using the IF function, well, it's a real game changer. It's a tool that lets you apply logic so your spreadsheet actually makes decisions for you. Let's visually deconstruct the IF function syntax and strip away all that confusing jargon. It really just happens in 3 conversational steps, separated by commas. Step 1 is the logical test. Basically, you're asking the spreadsheet a question, like, did Sunday's cookie sales exceed 300? Step 2 is the value if true. So if the answer is yes, what should the cell say? Let's have it spit out the text, great job. Then, step 3 is the value if false. If the sales did not exceed 300, what happens then? We tell it to output, you're making too many YouTube videos. By feeding these exact 3 arguments into the IF function, your spreadsheet acts just like a smart assistant, evaluating data and giving you immediate customized feedback.
Okay, let's head into section 4, relative and absolute references, the ultimate trial.
We are now confronting the primary villain of our explainer today. This is a concept that confuses almost all beginners and causes massive, massive headaches. Tell me if this sounds familiar. Why does copying a formula sometimes produce a 0 or a blank error? You build this totally perfect formula, you copy it down to the next row, and suddenly the whole thing is broken. Well, by default, Excel uses what are called relative references. That means if you copy a formula 1 cell down, the reference it's looking at also slides 1 cell down. And if it slides right into an empty cell, boom, you get a 0.
But here is exactly how you fix it. Relative references, like B2, slide and adjust based on where you paste them. But we want to introduce the ultimate hero of the spreadsheet, the dollar sign. When you put a dollar sign in front of the column letter and the row number, making it $B, $2, you create what's called an absolute reference. This anchors the reference firmly in a very specific location. So think about it this way. If you're calculating a fixed 3.8% bonus for your employees, and that bonus percentage is sitting up in cell E2, you make E2 an absolute reference. When you copy your formula down the whole list of employees, it will always point back to that exact 3.8% in E2, without sliding down into empty space and completely ruining the formula.
As one of our sources perfectly states, knowing when to use an absolute versus relative reference can save you from a lot of copy and paste headaches. Honestly, they hit the nail on the head with that one. Mastering this single concept of the absolute reference is quite literally the biggest leap forward in spreadsheet empowerment. Once you understand the power of the dollar sign, you are no longer at the mercy of the grid.
And finally, Section 5, shortcuts for ultimate speed, the cheat codes.
To truly master your domain and just absolutely fly through your work, you need to uncover the ultimate cheat codes, keyboard shortcuts. Let's fire through these essential ones right now. First, remember those life-saving dollar signs we literally just talked about? Yeah, you don't actually have to manually type those out. When you're clicked into a cell reference in your formula bar, just hit the F4 key. It instantly anchors the cell, toggling those dollar signs right on for you. Need to quickly add up a column? Press Alt and the equal sign to trigger AutoSum. Want to change how your numbers look? CTRL+1 instantly brings up the format box. Made a mistake? Hey, we all do. CTRL+Z is your universal undo. And if you need to quickly edit the contents of a cell without reaching for your mouse, just tap, well, actually scratch that. It's F2 to show or edit the cell.
But wait, we're not done yet. These next navigation hacks are going to keep your hands completely off the mouse and drastically increase your workflow speed. Hold Control and use your arrow keys to instantly jump to the very end of a continuous range of data. Getting lost in a massive spreadsheet? It happens. CTRL+Home will instantly teleport you all the way back up to cell A1. Need to bounce between different tabs? Use Control+Page Up or Page Down to quickly switch between worksheets. And finally, if you're ever typing inside a single cell and you want to start a new line without moving down to the next row, just hit Alt+Enter. It's that easy.
So let's recap. You now know the real difference between formulas and functions, how to build smart logic with if, how to anchor data to stop errors absolutely dead in their tracks, and the cheat codes to do the whole shebang in a fraction of the time. You no longer work for your spreadsheet works for you. So here is my final question for you. When you open that blank grid tomorrow morning, what's the very first manual task you're going to eliminate forever? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.